Pistachio almond croissant.
All alone again tonight, but you don't seem to forget about yourself. Wondering how it goes so wrong, but you didn't call for it. But let me tell you about the trees and the seas, how it's all connected.
Hi, it is Sunday. It's actually Mother's Day and it has been such a lovely weekend overall. If you hear kids in the background, my view is literally kids like swinging and playing with their dog in the backyard. It's very precious. Everyone is so happy that it's sunny and warm. I'm literally like in a short sleeve top, which is a miracle after a pretty like cold and gray month. But we had a lovely morning. Clayton, of course, let me sleep in. He usually does that actually. He always wakes up with Nico, so I get a little extra time in bed because I'm still nursing and that happens like sometimes in the middle of the night. So that's my reward. He also got me some cute presents and then we went on a walk through the park with coffee, which is just like my favorite thing. And now I'm gonna go on a solo date to go journal and I'm gonna go shopping at this place called Cotton Cake. I'll try to take my camera with me if I don't feel too awkward because it's a really cute shop and I love their pieces. They feel really like timeless, beautiful quality, and that like linen, effortless feeling that I want to wear when I'm in Portugal in a couple of weeks. We also have friends coming into town. They're coming to the Netherlands to visit family, but we get to hang out with them too, which I'm really excited for because they had a baby about 5 months ago and it'll be our first time meeting him and him and Nico can meet, so that'll be really cute. I'm just gonna take you along this week. I'm not quite sure what's gonna happen. I am going to try to answer some questions along the way because I posted a TikTok video a couple days ago that went viral and I'm like flooded with questions right now about testing out Europe, moving to Europe. I will try to share as I go. To be honest, I feel like I'm more of a content creator that shares like feelings and observations and not so much the tactical like here's all the like logistical steps to take. I will try to share those as we go. Like I did in my Q&A video, like we're talking to an immigration lawyer and here's the 2 different visas we're looking at in Amsterdam versus Lisbon and then the long-term option. So I can share more about that. But overall, I think I'm more so sharing the experience we're having at taking like 1 step at a time towards making this decision because I just think approaching conversations and decisions with nuance is so important. Like it is not so binary. Like mentally, yes, it would be so much easier just to say like the US is garbage and if I move to another country, my life will be changed and my life will be perfect. It's just not that simple. Like these things are really complicated and we can only make the best decision for ourselves and for our families. And this decision doesn't just affect me, it doesn't just affect Clayton, like it is going to drastically affect Nico's childhood, and so I take it very seriously and I don't just want to make like an impulsive decision, which is why we are taking this time to like actually just be here and test it out and then compare it to Portugal and then go back home and see like, does this make sense for our family? I do think the testing period has been so helpful for us because it really allows you to like become a part of a different like society and then you can view things a little bit more objectively. Anyway, we can get into this more later. I have a lot of thoughts, but for now, we're gonna go shopping. So come along with me. Welcome to another cold morning in Amsterdam. Am I a little bit bitter about it? Maybe, because I'm tired of wearing Clayton's puffer jacket. It's really not that bad. I just think we thought it would be warmer
in the air
by now. And like I said in previous vlogs, I'm just ready to wear like the other clothes I brought. I'm really tired of wearing the same clothes.
Yeah, not for the faint of heart.
But this
I don't know how those people do it.
This week has been really fun though. We have our friends in town and I don't think we realized how much we needed just like people that we've known for a while instead of just friends that are like new. I feel very confident in our ability to make new friends, but it's just different than hanging out with people you've known for a while. So having them here this week, having my brother who visited like what, a week ago, has just been really nice.
It's like a revolving door, and it makes you look like the local, which is cool.
It's been fun though because with like Marco and Aaliyah here, it's just like very cozy hangs. It's like, you know, getting pizza and eating at the house, and they have a baby too,
it's
and Nico like loves their
they're
baby.
Just down to do whatever.
Yeah, it's like cozy friend hangs. So that's been really fun, but I've not vlogged a ton. But right now we are just walking to the park and we're gonna get coffee, which is such a treat because we usually don't do this all together on weekdays because usually Clayton and I are like always trading off like working or watching Nico, but we just had a morning where we wanted to hang out all together, which is so fun.
Not having coffee till later in the morning is a real shift because I used to wake up so early and like have 2 or 3 coffees before like 11 o'clock, and now most places don't open till like 9.
Oh yeah, I don't know if
so you really learn to like savor it.
Like literally people coffee shops do not open before 9 a.m. here.
Yeah.
The Europeans really protect that work-life balance, you know what I mean?
Coffee gang.
And our matching shoes. Good morning. I'm finally going to answer some questions. I'm just looking them up on my Instagram stories. There were so many questions. I'm not going to be able to get to all of them in this video, but I'll continue answering them in future videos. Clayton and Nico might walk through the door any minute now because Nico's been waking up really early this week, and Clayton is such a sweetheart. He takes him to the park like super early in the morning so I can have the house to myself in the morning, and they go to this park that has like sandboxes and tons of plastic trucks, and Nico's obsessed with it. So it's very sweet, but I'm just like major dad goals that he takes Nico to a park at like 7 a.m. Okay, so first question, the main one I'm getting like everywhere is about visas. So Clayton has had conversations with immigration lawyers in both the Netherlands and in Portugal. Highly recommend just going that route. They know all the answers way better than Google. They do this all the time. So high level overview from like what I understand about it is that in Amsterdam, there's a really good option actually between the Netherlands and America. It's called the DAFT visa, D-A-F-T. And this is great if you are freelance, which both Clayton and I are freelance right now. So it's pretty straightforward. You can get a visa. I think you have to renew it maybe like every year or two, but you can do that pretty much indefinitely as long as you're freelance. So if I got the DAFT visa as a freelancer and Clayton was my dependent or vice versa, the dependent can actually get a job, like a full-time, part-time job in the country, but the main person has to be freelance. At 5 years, you are then eligible to apply for permanent residency, but you cannot become a citizen of the Netherlands unless you give up your US citizenship. So you cannot be a dual citizen, you have to choose one or the other. That would be kind of hard for us, so it's kind of making Portugal seem like a better option. So Portugal, there's a really great digital nomad visa. So not only can you be freelance, but you also could be working remotely for like, if you're working full-time for a company in the United States and you can work remotely on a different time zone, you can do that. Versus in the Netherlands, you have to be like actually freelance. You can't just be like remote. So that's really nice. And then secondly, once you've been there for 5 years, you are eligible to apply for Portuguese citizenship and you can be a dual citizen. That is personally way more attractive to me. I feel like if I'm gonna live in another country for 5 years, I would love to secure EU passports for myself, my kids. I feel like that just opens up so many opportunities for us in the future. So personally, I think the Portugal option is way better, but I do think Amsterdam, like if you just wanted to work remotely as a freelancer indefinitely and didn't need the EU passport at the end, that's a great option too. Some people talk about like buying a property in Portugal can get you a passport faster. I don't think that's entirely accurate, and if it is, you have to buy the house like completely cash. You can't just do like a 20% down payment on a $500,000 house. Like you have to buy the whole thing. So that's not really reasonable for us. And for both of them, especially the Netherlands, you do have to prove that you have like a certain amount of money in the bank. So you have to transfer like a couple $1,000s to a bank in that country just to prove that you have money. Speaking of money, getting lots of questions about what Clayton and I do for work. So I just want to say, disclaimer, we do not come from money, and I just want to say that because when I was younger and was like dreaming of one day spending time in Europe with my family, it felt so unattainable because I just always thought it was people who came from money, who grew up going to Europe with their families, and money was like a big scarcity. I had a lot of scarcity mentality around money just because of how I grew up. Clayton and I both grew up in big families that didn't have a lot of money. I've been financially independent since I was 17. I had to pay for college on my own, yada yada. So I really had to work through the scarcity mentality that you have to come from a certain upbringing in order to have a certain lifestyle. I also didn't go to like a fancy college. I did graduate when I was 20, and I moved to LA immediately because I cold called the president of CBS Studios when I was 20 in my dorm room, begged him for an internship, and he said yes. So I got an internship at CBS Studios, moved out there, and then hustled my way into TV shows where I was a PA on TV shows at Warner Brothers and CBS Studios. So I did get a great start to my career just by a little bit of luck and a little bit of like determination. That went like all sorts of different ways. I ended up in a way having like a quarter life crisis because I always wanted to be a film producer, and then I got into the industry and realized like I probably wouldn't be happy with that as like my end result. So that's when I went and lived with a family in London and just took some time to like get perspective on like what I wanted out of life. I ended up then working for a film producer in Nashville, and we traveled a lot for his film projects. We did some music videos in town. And then I switched into working in social media because after working in like the film and TV industry, it's very up and down. It's either like you are working 16 hours a day every day, or you have no work. And I really wanted something with more stability, and at that time social media marketing was becoming a career, and it felt really in line because it felt like storytelling and taking these big concepts about a brand and trying to make it really digestible for people to understand. And I was like, oh, that's pretty much why I got into filmmaking. Like, it's all storytelling at the end of the day. And then when Clayton and I got married, about 2 years in, we both were just like, let's give our careers our all. We wanted to wait and have kids until closer to 30 so we could have some time to build that financial security, since that was like a bigger concern for both of us. So we moved to New York City in, I think it was 2018. And New York was the absolute best thing we could have done for our careers. We worked so freaking hard. We were both at startups. Clayton got into partnerships, I got into social media marketing, and it is like freaking boot camp. Like, we worked so hard, but you learn so much in that environment, and I am so happy we did that. I doubled my salary just by making that move, and then I had a very clear vision for what I wanted to do from there. So I started off as a manager, and I really wanted to work my way up to senior manager and then director, and then get out of just social media marketing and become a director of marketing. And then I said to myself, once I'm a director of brand marketing, then I'll be confident enough to go freelance. So I am not a risk taker. I am a Virgo. Like, going freelance and living in Europe for 3 months with my family is not something that I do without thinking it through. So that is what I did. I started off as a manager, worked my way up. During the pandemic, we did end up moving to Austin, but we stayed working remotely for startups based in either New York or LA. Just knowing that that caliber was like the level that we wanted to stay in because it challenges you so much, and honestly, it does pay well. So I did work my way up. I worked for multiple different startups full-time. I worked my way up to director, and then I felt the confidence to go freelance, which I did in January. It was still very scary, but I felt like I had the experience from all the different startups I'd worked at, where I felt confident enough in my ability and what I could offer to these companies. And it's been wonderful. I like love the clients I have so far. It is scary every single day because, again, like, I am someone that doesn't love taking risks, and so I do love the stability of a full-time job and benefits, but the work-life balance that I have with clients and just the ability to like shift my work schedule has been so good for me. I love being able to just like focus for a couple of hours and like do my deep work, and then take a break and take me go to the park, and then go deep in on work, and then take a couple of meetings, and then like take a break. Like, that cycle is much better for me than when I used to have to like sit at my desk for 8-9 hours a day, or go into the office for 9-10 hours a day. So I'm sorry I do not have any special formula for going freelance or for being able to work remotely. Honestly, I'm kind of a big believer in you have to pay your dues in order to get somewhere. Not necessarily pay your dues, I don't think you can skip steps. And I think that sometimes there's this talk of like, if you just believe in yourself and like pitch yourself hard enough, that you can skip to that part, and I don't know, I just think you have to go through the boot camp. And oftentimes it is in your 20s. Like, your 20s is not a time to create the perfect work-life balance. I think it's a time to get as much experience as possible. Like, just diving in there and learning as much as you can, because all of those experiences are so valuable. Now, as I'm entering into my 30s, it's like, oh, I have this entire toolbox to pull from. So I feel so much more confident as a consultant, where I'm like, oh, we're in this situation, let me look back at all these people I've worked with, all these different companies I've been at, and I actually have experience to pull from. And I think that's really important, just for you to feel confident and credible as you go into a step that feels a little bit more flexible and not as straightforward. I hope that makes sense. The boys just got home. Nico! Did you go to the park, baby? You're tired, Dada.
Sweaty and tired.
You were the only Dada at the park this morning?
There was not a soul in sight.
Oh, Nico, do you have fun with Dada? Did you ride
Cold
the bike?
outside and it's windy, and then you literally bike and walk all the way up the stairs, and then you're sweating.
Yeah, I'm gonna be transparent with you all. Portugal's sounding real good right now. We love Amsterdam so much, but it is still pretty freaking cold, and it's the end of May. And I just don't know, like, we kind of already did that life. Like, we did the New York winters, you know, where you're biking in 0-degree weather. And I'm just like, if we have the option, it could be really nice to live near the beach. Okay, I'm gonna try to answer another question. Okay, have you felt lonely without a group of friends? Okay, so I feel pretty confident in our ability to make new friends. I've said that before. We've moved a ton. I've actually moved every 1 to 2 years for the past decade. So you have to like make new friends. But new friends are very different than old friends. And there's something like so nice and comforting about just like hanging out with people that you've known for a while. And so that has definitely started hitting a little bit. And that's why it was just so nice that we've had friends in town this week. That you can just like get takeout and hang out at the house with your kids, and it just feels like more relaxed. So we've been here in Europe for almost 2 months now, and I definitely feel that. Where I'm like, I'd love to just like get coffee with like an old friend, you know? So that's definitely a real thing. Oh, speaking of that, New York versus Amsterdam, pros and cons. Okay, so different. I mean, I love New York. New York is just such a special place, I think, because of how much it did for me and Clayton and for our careers, and it was just such a fun time as a couple. We love New York. I will say, like, if you just put Amsterdam on top of New York, Amsterdam is so much smaller. Like, you can bike across town, like the entire city, in like 15-20 minutes in Amsterdam. Well, I could like bike to another neighborhood in Brooklyn and it would take 20 minutes. Like, New York is just so much bigger, and it just makes it feel like more overwhelming. Versus Amsterdam, it is very cozy and just like more accessible in the way that like you can just bike so quickly everywhere, you can walk so easily. I will say the public transportation, the streets, like everything is so clean. Obviously very different than New York, where you just have like walls of trash. I'm not working like in an office here, but you can really tell like the work-life balance is different. Like New York, it is just hustle culture. Here, you can just tell like people are not stressing too much, and like they are going to be having a drink at 5 p.m. and like be out of the office. Clayton's first job in New York, they had an office in Amsterdam. So that's actually when we first came here, was when he had to come here for work. And it was so different than his New York office, because when he was in Amsterdam, it was like 5 p.m., boom, we are outside having a drink. Even like the fact that the the cafes, I feel so dumb that I keep saying coffee shops here, because those are weed shops. The cafes here, where you would go get a coffee, most of them like don't open till 9 a.m. on a weekday. So I'm just like, that alone kind of tells you everything you need to know. Okay, so the long-term plan for your house in Nashville if you move abroad fully. So we have been renting our house out while we're gone, which has been really nice with like offsetting the cost, because our mortgage is covered back home. And we're gonna go back home. We're gonna be back by the 1st of July. My sister is gonna have a baby, so we wanna be back home for that. And I feel like we'll probably stay in Nashville through the holidays, make sure we like get all of our family time, and then make a plan to move either to Amsterdam or Lisbon in the new year. Bless you. And within that time, we would need to figure out how to rent out our house. We really want to keep our house in Nashville. We love it. It's a great location. It's a good investment. And we're just really grateful we were able to buy that Bless you. When did we buy that? It was like the end of the pandemic, 2021. It was so hard to get a house then, and we just feel really lucky. So we want to keep that house, and we would probably just rent it out like either 6 or 12-month lease while we're gone. I personally would love to just like probably get a like rental agency that could manage it and just make sure our mortgage is covered and that we have good tenants that aren't going to mess up our house. I think we would maybe even do it fully furnished. All the furniture just like really fits well into our space, and we chose it specifically for the house. So I don't know, we'll see. Maybe we'll put in a storage unit just to protect it, because I don't want it to get ruined. But the other hand, I'm kind of like, it'd be easier just to keep it in there, and then we could like have the rent be a little bit more. So we'll see, but we would definitely rent it out while we're gone. Tips on getting comfortable recording your life in public. I am not comfortable doing that at all. For some reason, it's easier here because like in Nashville, I could run into someone I know any second. Like you just run into people in Nashville. Here, I'm kind of like, I don't really care. Like I'm probably not gonna see these people again, but I still feel incredibly awkward. Tips on how to start living life slowly like this. I'm so inspired by you. Thank you. I don't know. This is a tough one because I feel sometimes like my personalities are so split. Like in some ways I'm such a like high achiever, type A, give me a checklist kind of person. And then on the other side, I can be like such a romantic, slow living kind of gal. And I think I've leaned more in that direction recently, just realizing how much better it is for me. I think I've in the past gotten really sucked into that like hustle culture, especially being in New York, trying to work my way up in startups. And then honestly, when I had Nico, like being in that newborn bubble really transformed me. And I felt like I was so present with him, because when you're like holding a newborn, you're just like staring at this being and you feel like so in your body and so aware, or at least that's how I felt. And after working on like a screen, especially remotely for like the past 2 years, I had been working remotely at a startup, just like staring at screens all the time. The juxtaposition of that to like staring at a newborn was just so different, and I felt so much happier. And so I think since then, just my approach to work has honestly felt different. I still have very high work ethic. I really believe in excellence. If I'm going to commit to a client, I'm going to give them my all. But at the same time, I just don't think my identity is there as much as it used to be. And so I have more peace, kind of letting myself have a little bit more work-life balance and being able to just like leave work mentally and then appreciate my life and enjoy the slow moments and see life through like Nico's eyes. And then when I'm in work, I'm in work. And just that ability to like compartmentalize is something that I do think motherhood has kind of given me, or maybe also just going through hard seasons. And when you go through hard seasons where you realize how much like hustle culture can take from you mentally, it does just make you take your peace a lot more seriously. And I do think that's something that I focused on a lot more. Like my peace is more important than anything, because I know what it's like just be in that like spiral internally and just constantly feel that adrenaline. And I just don't want that. I feel like I'm very aware of how short life is. That's also something that happened after giving birth. Like there's something about seeing life come into the earth that made me realize like, oh, like it made me think about death a lot more, like knock on wood. And not to get morbid, but like seeing the beginning of life made me think about the end of life, and in an actually really healthy way, where I feel like so much aware of how short life is. And instead of just being so focused on a goal and just like working towards that, I'm like, every single experience is so valuable. And so this spring, the fact that we could go to Europe, I'm like, well, we can, so we will, because that is an experience that we might never get back. We have no idea what next year looks like. When you have the opportunity, just do it, because experiences, especially with people you love, are just like the most important thing. That sounds so cheesy, but like when it actually hits that is the most important thing, it feels really different and it changes how you make decisions. So I think I used to make decisions based on money. That was a big motivator, or success. So this decision to go to Europe, where it wasn't the most financially reasonable option, was really a healthy thing for me, because it was making a decision based on having an experience with my husband and my child, and taking steps towards like a bigger goal that we have in life. instead of making a decision based on like what was going to save the most amount of money or make the most amount of money or help me get a certain job. And so that shift in priorities has been a really lovely thing that has happened probably in the past like 2 years. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't think I'm gonna get to any more questions in this video, but I'll try on the next ones. And if you have very pressing questions, leave them as comments in this video. Thanks for following along with this vlog. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you soon.